با عرض سلام. یه دو تا تیکه ویدیو من براتون زیرنویس کردم. یه دونش مال جنرال داگلاس مکگرگر، خب افسر بازنشسته است و نظراتشون راجع به اینکه جنگ چجوری قرار اتفاق بیفته، چه نظر خودش راجع به جنگ ایران و اسرائیل و همچنین خلع سلاح حزب الله و اتفاقاتی که داره میفته تو سوریه و اینا دیگه. اینو زیرنویس کردم براتون. یه تیکه دیگه ویدیو هم هستش، اینو اول میذارمش، 2 دقیقه بیشتر نباشه. این یه شخصیه، این یه فرد سوریایی هستش، ایشون ارمنی تبار سوریایی هستش، کوک اسمش، کورک سارکاسیان. فکر میکنم شاید آشوری باشه، شاید نمیدونم، ولی خب مسیحی سوریه هستن ایشون. اینم یه پادکستی داشتش با یه لبنانی، فکر میکنم لبنانی شیعه بودش. اینم داره نظرش میپرسه راجع به نظرش راجع به اینکه همین قضیه خلع سلاح و مردم چجوری فکر میکنن و اینا، که فقط خیلی جالبه که بشنویم ببینیم صدای مردم اونجا چجوری فکر میکنن. البته خب میگین نه سنیه نه مسیحیه، ولی خب همون قسمت بسیار بزرگی از جمعیت لبنان همین شیعیان هستن و حتی همون قسمتایشون هم که شیعه نیستن و چه سنی هستن چه مسیحی هستن، اونا هم خیلی هاشون اینجوری فکر میکنن. حالا اینو من براتون میذارم، اول این مال این فرد لبنانی میذارم، بعد مال جنرال مکگرگر.
Okay, first, the Iranians did not go back to their own territory. Ali Larijani was in Lebanon a few days ago delivering a very important message that Iran is not going to leave the people of the resistance alone. This is something that every single official in Lebanon understood. And the Iranians are speaking quite open about it. What I have to say is this, Kevork. First, they think by connecting the reconstruction of the southern villages and the southern suburbs and Baalbek, east of Lebanon, to the disarmament of the resistance, the people of Lebanon are ready to live under open sky with no roof, and they will not agree for the resistance to give up their weapons. If they are trying to scare the Lebanese and to install fear in their heart regarding the UNIFIL and they will let the hand of Israel free, I think we have made it clear for everyone that death is better than humiliation and enslavement. This is a way of life I don't think that Tom Barak and whoever sent Tom Barak understands. And the third and last thing, Kevork, I want to speak about, this is our land. This is our home. This is not a hotel. We are not going to check out and leave this land. This is the lands of our parents and grandparents and generations before them. We were born in it and we will die in it. They can try to kill us all, but we will die as free people. This is a decision that the Lebanese took, not only Hezbollah took, because even today, Kevork, if Hezbollah wants to give up their weapons, the Lebanese will not allow them. The Southerners will not allow them. The people of East Lebanon and Baalbek and a large number of Lebanese from all sects will not allow Hezbollah to give up their weapons or the resistance to give up their weapons.
نظراتش جالب بود. حالا همونجوری که بهتون گفتم این شیعه بودش، ولی خب احتمالاً بسیار زیادی دیگه هم از همون سنی‌ها و مسیحی‌ها هم احتمالاً همینجوری فکر میکنن. نظرش راجع به آقای لاریجانی هم جالب بودش. یه تیکه دیگه هم هستش 2 دقیقه و خورده‌ای، اونم بعد از ویدیوی جنرال مکگرگر براتون میذارم.
Iran is recovering very, very rapidly from the last war. In fact, I would argue that their air and space missile defense is excellent. The Russians have poured in there. They've invested a lot of time so that air and missile defense forces in Iran are now infinitely more lethal and capable than they were during the 12-day exchange of missiles. At the same time, Iran's missile arsenal has continued to expand. Its technology has improved. So I think it would be a serious mistake for the Israelis to resume the war, but I think that's exactly what they're going to do. And I think it will probably happen in September, latest in October. It could happen earlier, depending upon events. We don't know. And we should be on the alert for all sorts of false flags staged by MI6 with help from Mossad that might accelerate that process. But I think that's inevitable. We, on the other hand, have a whole series of problems that we still had at the end of the 12-day war, and we're working very hard to compensate for the losses of aircraft and missiles and so forth during the 12-day war. How well is that going? I can't say with absolute certainty, but we've got a lot of people working on it. So we too are getting ready for what we think will be a resumption of the war with Iran. So the best I can say is, we haven't achieved much in terms of, if you're interested in peace and stability, and I see no evidence that either Israel or the United States or London are interested in peace and stability in the region. I see they're still interested in reinforcing the balkanization with the ultimate hope, which I think is forlorn, but they're hoping they can bring down Iran in ways that they were unable to bring down Russia. That is, remove the government, fragment the society, divide the country, and then ultimately get control of the oil and gas reserves. So I don't think that'll work, but that's what we're still trying to do. I think the objective of both MI6, CIA, and Mossad, of all three of those organizations, and by implication of Washington, Ankara, and Jerusalem, has been to balkanize the region. And the region is now balkanized. Destroying Syria was a critical step in the direction of completely balkanizing the Middle East. The idea being that ultimately all the Arab states would live in fear of Israel because of the threat of U.S. military power backing Israel, that no one in proximity to Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Iraq, any of these countries would not be a threat in any way to Israel, and ultimately could be compelled to conform to whatever Israel wants. Again, by implication, you're talking about the City of London banks, New York City finance, Washington, and Jerusalem. So I think they've achieved that goal. Everything is balkanized. Now, what has not gone well? Well, a number of things haven't gone very well. I don't think this Azeri Armenian treaty has much staying power. I don't think the respective parliaments will vote to support it. And I don't think we have a way to keep it alive. It's basically, once again, a concession to Israeli strategy in the region, which is to try and encircle Iran. We've signed up for it, at least in part because it also threatens to break up BRICS, at least in our minds, and to interrupt or disrupt cooperation and communication between Iran and Russia. I don't think any of that's going to work out in the Caucasus. So I think ultimately we'll run out of steam and the Russians will prevail in the Caucasus. That's another entire subject, but the Iranians have already said very clearly that if we try to employ this corridor that we have now volunteered to man and control and manage, that it will be taken as an active war against Iran. So I think we've reached the limits in some respects of what we can do to encircle and surround Iran. The Kurds, of course, are allied with Israel, and we're backing them, and they are a thorn in the side of Erdogan. Erdogan has mixed feelings about what's happened in Syria because whatever claim he may have had to lead Islam is now completely destroyed, because he's saddled up with the great Satan, or the little Satan, whatever you want to call it, Israel, against everybody else in Islam. Well, hasn't Syria already broken up? I mean, I see no evidence that it's a country at all. You have this jihadist state led by Jolani, the ISIS / Al-Qaeda man in suit. And then you have the Kurdish state to the north and to the far east. And then, of course, you have the Druze down south. The Druze and the Kurds are both allied with the Israelis, or not perhaps 100%, but for the most part. And the Israelis have no interest in seeing a unified, unitary state reemerge in Syria anytime soon. So I don't know what anybody's expectations are, but the notion that somehow or another we're going to see stability in Syria in the near term, I think, are ridiculous. I think, if anything, the man who's most worried about all of it, and should be, is Erdogan. He was interested in destroying Syria. He thought that he had a coincidence of interest or a convergence of interest with the Israelis. I don't think he ever did, but he does, and he thinks that he's gotten something. Now, all of a sudden, he's beginning to wonder just how much further the Israelis are going to press, and what are the implications for the Turks. He's got this huge Kurdish de facto independent state on his border, which he says he doesn't want, but he seems to be incapable of doing anything about it. And I think the Israelis are assuming that because the Turkish economy is so fragile right now, inflation's out of control, currency's in trouble, that they can bully the Turks, of course, once again, relying on us to back them. So I think Erdogan is very concerned, and I think his population is increasingly unhappy with his conduct of foreign policy in the region and his attitudes towards the rest of the region. So I see no peace in our time when it comes to Syria at all. This is an area where I am not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. I would simply say that if I were in Lebanon and I were betting that Israel is somehow or another going to change, in other words, a leopard changes its spots and suddenly abandon any goal under any circumstances of acquiring new territory from Lebanon, and that therefore we can justify accelerating the disarmament of Hezbollah, I would say the people in Lebanon are delusional. I think that Israel has its eye on everything south of the Litani River. They're currently occupying the watershed in the mountains that are adjacent to Lebanon and adjacent to Syria, in southern Syria. I don't see any evidence that any of that's going to change. And then finally, what would you do if you were part of Hezbollah, having seen what's happened thus far? What incentive is there to disarm, given the attitude and the behavior and the outlook of the Israelis on the region and our willingness to support them? I don't see any change. So I can't predict with accuracy exactly what will happen in Lebanon, but I would be very, very skeptical if I were sitting anywhere in Lebanon looking at what's happening to my south. And if I were in Hezbollah, I would say we better rebuild quickly and be prepared for the next round, because I think that's really what we're facing in the region. We're facing new rounds of conflict, new rounds of war, new rounds of fighting on the basis of the annexation plan. And the annexation plan that supports Greater Israel is very real.